This is a texting question. How do you get over resentments from a past organized religion and cult? Here's the difficult thing about this question. If I can be transparent, this one hits home for me. Not because this overly happened to me. I mean, I had some issues growing up with my youth pastor really hurt me, and I had some issues with some other things, but nothing like, it was an outright sin and they were trying to destroy me or like that. It just hurt. Life, pain, it hurts, Life gets sticky sometimes. But the reason why this one hits close to me is because I know that there's been people that have left Radiant, that if they were having a red hot at whatever church they landed at, they would probably put that question up. And so it hurts my heart because I know that sometimes people put their trust in churches and organized religions, which is a good thing. But I know sometimes we can put the wrong kind of trust or too much trust, and it leads us into a place that we're hurt. As a pastor, it hurts my heart to hear that anybody is hurt by a religion. It hurts my heart to know that people have been hurt by Radiant, but as a pastor, I've asked for forgiveness. As a church, we've changed, we've grown, we've worked through those things, and there'll be people in the future that leave here hurt. It's never my desire. My prayer for what they will do is what I'm going to share next, okay? So in other words, what I'm saying is I'm not letting any religious leader off the hook, myself included, okay? Here's what I would suggest. First, you have to understand what it means to forgive and why it's important for us to forgive. We were never designed by God to carry unforgiveness in our heart. I know that question doesn't technically ask about unforgiveness. It says resentments over past organized religion and cult. And I will definitely drill down on that in a moment, but I want to lay the foundation of forgiveness. The example that Christ has given us is to forgive us. In fact, it says that while we, granted it wasn't talking about you and I directly in this room today, but while humanity was rejecting God, while we were still sinners and while we hated God, that Christ went to the cross and he died for us. Now, fast forward, he was dying for all of humanity, so I guess technically we were involved in that. But basically, what we see here is God chose to forgive us. In fact, his last few words on the cross is, God, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. So while he's being beaten and spit upon and mocked, and he's bleeding all over the place, and he has nails through his wrists and his feet, and he has people that used to be followers that aren't even there with him. They've ran and scattered. He has people that used to be followers that are now part of the crowd saying, crucify him, crucify him. In the middle of all that, he's naked, he's ashamed. He's literally laid naked in front of his mother. A grown man. I know all the statues and stuff that we have, he's covered up, but he wasn't. He was naked. He stood there, he was on that cross, and this is what he said. Father, forgive them, because they don't know what they're doing. The example that Christ gave us was to forgive others. There's this parable in Matthew chapter 18. I won't read the whole thing, but I'll give you a sum up of it. Matthew chapter 18, a parable of a man who was in jail, prison, for a debt that he owed. And he was released from that. He was released out of prison, and he had, I don't know how much the debt was, I can't remember, but it was a good-sized debt, but he was released, and he said, go. And this guy immediately left from that position and went to find someone that owed him money. So here I am, I'm the guy that was in jail. I owe this guy money, but he's completely released me from it. And the first thing I do is I go out of jail and I go find that person that owes me a significantly less. It'd be probably the equivalent of like I owe $100,000 and I'm gonna go find the guy that owes me $50. And he goes and he basically attacks him. And the problem is in this story, we begin to see how the first master sees that. The first master sees that as like, what are you talking about? I forgave you of a huge debt, and you can't forgive that person? Called him a wicked servant. And threw this guy that was originally forgiven of the debt, threw him back in prison. And so really what God's sharing with us, what God's proclaiming to us is this, is we are the ones that have been forgiven of a huge debt. All of our sin in our lives has been forgiven by God. We have not one leg to stand on to hold unforgiveness towards somebody else, a debt that is much smaller than what we have done towards God. It's a smack in the face, a wake-up call. Now, let me be clear. Forgiveness doesn't for 1 second say, if I choose to forgive you, that what you did to me was right. In our mind, it validates what they did, but it's not what's really happening. Forgiveness also does not let them off the hook, so to speak. It does when it comes to your vengeance. It does when it comes to what you're going to do about it. You're the judge, jury, and hangman. Like, you got to give some of that up. But we know that Jesus, God himself, is our defender. And I think often the reason why God does not defend us when we have people lying about us and we have people coming against us, the reason why God does not defend us is not because he's a liar. God never lies. The reason why God doesn't defend us is because our hands are around that person's neck, so to speak. We have removed God from the defending us business because we have become our own defenders. If I hold unforgiveness towards that person, we think that somehow that's going to show that person. It's going to call that person out. It's going to cause harm and hurt to that person. It's going to make them realize, but it almost never does. Almost never does. And this is a little bit cliche. I've heard it 1,000 times. I've preached it 1,000 times, but it's true. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Unforgiveness is poison to your soul. It hurts your relationship with God. It doesn't really hurt the other person. It might a little bit here and there, but is that our responsibility anyway? Is our goal for our enemies to hate them and to fight against them? No, we're told to love our enemies. We're called to pray blessing over those who hurt us and spitefully use us. Again, the sacrifice of being a Christian and to follow after Jesus usually is going to hurt a little bit. And so while the rest of the world, if you wrong me and I'm the rest of the world, that means I can wrong you and I can hold unforgiveness towards you and bitterness and all those kind of things. As Christians, we have no right to unforgiveness and bitterness. None. In fact, God tells us that if we have unforgiveness, that even our sacrifices of praise, our offerings, should not be accepted until we go and find forgiveness and ask for forgiveness. Which means some of us are coming into church going, Jesus, Jesus, I love you. Thank you for forgiveness. While we shouldn't even be at church, we should be asking forgiveness from that person and praying for that person first. This is how real this is. There's verses in the Bible that talk about that if we don't forgive, God will not forgive us. This is the real deal. This is something that we can't afford to ignore. So I lay that foundation, say, listen, when you're hurt, I'll just use the youth pastor I had growing up. I loved him. I served him like crazy. I wanted nothing more than just be known by him and to be a part of what he was doing, but he had nothing to do with me. I was the nerd sound guy in the back, and he had nothing to do with me. I served him constantly, nonstop. I realized later on that I was not serving God, I was serving him. And I was serving for more than what God was wanting for me. I wasn't serving because I just loved Jesus and I wanted people to know Jesus. I was serving for my own reasons. So there was a heart issue that had to be done there. But I served him, and he never acknowledged me. And it hurt. I tell you, I went to Bible school mad and bitter. I got married. I was just mad and angry. And later on, a good friend of mine said, dude, you've got to forgive him. His name was, first name was Scott, Pastor Scott. You got to forgive him. You got to release him. You don't, but yeah, I heard he's still doing that to people. No. God's the defender. You need to pray blessing over him. You need to release him and allow God to do what God can do, because God is not able to minister fully until you release your hands over the situation. And so I started praying. According to what my friend told me to do, I started praying. God, bless him. Like, you guys know how it goes. When you got to like start praying, like even the forgiveness, I forgive them for being a jerk and forgive them for being, you just start going online. It's not even really a forgiveness prayer. You're just like lighting them up in prayer, right? Like, and I forgive them for their acne, and I forgive them for smelling bad. And like, you kind of go through the list. That's how I started out. And I did that for a few weeks. and just kept going and kept going. About a year into it, I was still praying for Pastor Scott, but my heart kind of started to get loosened up a little bit. And I was praying, Lord, bless him and help him to, Lord, help him to see what he's not able to see right now. Bless him with what he's doing, but help him to see what he's not able to see. Fast forward about another half a year. So a year and a half into it, now I'm actually praying for his kids. I'm praying for his wife, Lord. I know he's got a surgery coming up. Just be with him. Help him to know that you're with him. And I didn't even realize it took place over a year and a half. But in a year and a half of me consistently, keyword, consistently praying for him. Starting off, angry prayer. A year and a half into it, I'm legitimately praying because I want to see Pastor Scott and his wife and his kids and his business and all the things he's doing. I want to see them flourish. And I want to see the grace of God. And I didn't even realize it until that person pointed out a year and a half later. But my heart was 100% healed and set free from that. Now, here's the thing. I want to be really clear. It didn't mean that in order for me to be considered healed and set free, that I ran back and instantly started serving Pastor Scott's ministry again. There's a lot of wisdom to just staying away from people if they're not good influences on you. Okay, I want to be really clear. Just because you forgive somebody does not mean you need to keep putting yourself back in that position, right? Do what's biblical. You have an issue with somebody, go to them first. If they ignore that, bring somebody else with you. If they ignore that, bring the church leaders in with it. Do what's biblical. But at some point, boom, 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 3 steps in, you're released from that. You've done what you need to do. You've contacted the right people. If it's a legal thing, you've contacted the authorities. You've done what's right. But all throughout and beyond that, your responsibility is forgive. Don't put yourself into those foolish situations again. And you've learned since then. So directly to this question, as they put it back up here, what do I do about the anxiety that comes from past organized religions and cults? The reason why I took a long road just to get to this point is that's exactly what you do. If there's abuse of organized religions and cults, don't go back to it. Alert the people you need to alert, not to punish them and to speak vile things about them because legitimately you want the truth to be known. Be willing to do those things, but most importantly, be willing to do the heart-soul issue of forgiving them. The reality is this, we always remove God out of the equation. And so if I forgive and I set free, then that means that church keeps getting to do that. I'm telling you right now, pastors and churches that do not do it right, their doors close. It just happens. Doesn't mean they're evil, doesn't mean there's bad intent. And maybe they're just missing something. We've missed a ton of things. Under the leadership of this church, I've missed a bunch. But I've asked for forgiveness, I've humbled my heart. And so your responsibility is pray for them. Now, if they're outright against the word of God, you don't pray that God goes against his word. I'm not going to sit there and if they're preaching false doctrine, I'm not going to be like, God bless what they're preaching. No, God will not bless what goes against his word. But I can say, God, let them know that they're loved. Open their eyes, help them to understand and see the damage they are doing. Help them to know that it's not too late. They can turn course and begin to minister the right way. I just believe that the way that we forgive organizations and cults is the same way that we forgive people, and it's for the same reason, because it's important, because Christ forgave us of so much. We have a responsibility to forgive others. I don't think I will say, maybe I don't really have a verse to back this up, this next part, but I'll just say it. I understand there's those times that you feel uncomfortable and you don't want to confront somebody and therefore you pull somebody else in. I get that. But I'll tell you right now, I have so much more respect for people that will call out a church, a pastor, somebody in their community group, whatever, if they will do it with their name associated with it. Or in other words, it's not anonymous. This goes, listen, I'm standing here, I brought the church with me, or I brought this person with me because I care about you, but I feel that you're hurting me or hurting this person. Can we talk about this? I think sometimes what happens is we get offended and we take that offense to all of our best friends and to our close circle, and we all get riled up by that and we all agree with each other. And then we're just like, that person's so mean, but we've never actually went to that person. Or if we did, we didn't do it the biblical way, and we've not prayed for that person. We've just got all like a hornet's nest, angry over here, but we've not actually, with integrity, dealt with the real issue. In fact, all we've done is inserted gossip into it, which is never helpful. Sometimes we need to be more careful and cautious about gathering up our prayer group to pray over it, and we actually just need to do the hard work in our own prayers first. Okay? Is that fair? To that person that's been through that hurt, I am very sorry. I don't know any of the details. I don't know any of that. All I know is if sometimes when you receive hurt, it's because you misinterpret it. We always know there's two sides to every coin. I get that. I've literally said great things before and have it deeply misinterpreted. So I hope that's not the case. But assuming that what they did was hurtful and wrong, I am very sorry. That is not the heart of God. I encourage you to go find what the Bible actually says about that situation and submit your heart to that.